Le 26 septembre 1990. Donc, c'est beaucoup d'actions. There was about 25 demonstrations of other type of actions during that summer. Pourquoi ça? Pourquoi c'était si important pour nous autres? D'abord parce qu'on était conscients d'une chose, on était à contre-courant de la société québécoise, à contre-courant du courant majoritaire de la société québécoise qui s'exprimait notamment dans la bouche des politiciens. Il y a certains politiciens qu'aujourd'hui on honore et qu'à l'époque on ne trouvait pas très honorables. Je pense particulièrement au premier ministre Bourassa ou encore à l'autre premier ministre qui a suivi, Jacques Parizeau, qui ont eu des propos totalement déplacés à ces occasions-là. Les médias qui étaient aussi très clairement du côté de la Sûreté du Québec, du côté de l'armée canadienne, du côté de l'action des gouvernements à ces moments-là. Donc, pour ça, c'était extrêmement important de maintenir l'action. Et ça l'était d'autant plus qu'il y avait d'autres groupes qui avaient le front qui s'appelait Solidarité. Je pense à un qui s'appelait Solidarité Châteauguay, et qui tenait un discours vraiment haineux où, très clairement, on appelait à un bain de sang. On appelait à l'invasion des territoires et on va se débarrasser de ce monde-là. Donc, c'était important de faire entendre une autre voix que celle-là, de montrer qu'il y a des gens dans la société québécoise qui pensaient différemment de ça. Le regroupement de solidarité a continué son action par la suite, d'abord en solidarité avec les gens qui ont été arrêtés à l'été 90 et qui étaient menacés, qui étaient devant les tribunaux, au palais de justice, pas très loin d'ici, où il y avait leur procès, à Saint-Jérôme aussi, où ils ont eu des procès. On a, par les moyens qui étaient les nôtres, donc des collectes de fonds, des organisations de fêtes bénéfices, à ramasser des fonds, à aider à ramasser des fonds pour la défense de ces gens-là qui s'étaient tenus debout pour les droits de leur nation. Ensuite, on a continué, bien évidemment, en solidarité avec le peuple Ghanaian et aussi avec d'autres nations autochtones, je pense aux Inuits, aux Cris, à plusieurs nations à travers le Canada qui étaient en lutte. On a trouvé important de maintenir ces luttes-là. Le regroupement, grosso modo, a duré à peu près, parce qu'il n'y a pas de date de fin, à peu près 20 ans son action, avec des boosts à moins continuels. Aujourd'hui, le regroupement n'existe plus vraiment, mais pour moi, une chose que j'ai retenue de l'été 90, c'est que la solidarité est extrêmement importante. C'est pas vrai que tu es impuissant, c'est pas vrai que tu es impuissante, tu peux faire des choses à condition de se tenir ensemble. Et c'est d'autant plus important. D'autres personnes pourraient beaucoup mieux que moi raconter ce qui se passe à Gagné-Sataké, mais c'est très clair ce qui s'est passé avant l'été 90, toute l'histoire du terrain de golf, mais ça a des suites maintenant où il y a encore des développements immobiliers qui grugent le petit territoire de Gagné-Sataké et qui attaquent encore la Pinède. Il y a des leçons qui ne se tirent pas. On voit les gouvernements, tant fédéral que provincial, qui adoptent des lois, qui ont présenté des projets de loi pour faire en sorte d'accélérer des projets de développement en territoire autochtone, des projets forestiers dans le cas du gouvernement du Québec, et des grands projets, dont entre autres des pipelines probablement, par le biais du gouvernement fédéral. Et ça, pour moi, ça demeure inacceptable. Il n'y aura pas de paix s'il n'y a pas de justice. Pas de justice, pas de paix. No justice, no peace. Merci, Naiwan Tawa.
Merci beaucoup. Before we get on to the next speaker, we're going to ask anyone who's filming in front to crouch down so that the rest of the groups can see the speakers. Okay, so our next speaker is Reem, I'm sorry, from PYM, and we're going to ask that all the future speakers only speak for like 5 minutes, so squish all your wisdom in 5 minutes, or 7.
Good afternoon, comrades. My name is Reem. I'm with the Palestinian Youth Movement. I'm part of a movement that represents Palestinian and Arab youth in the far diaspora who are struggling for an end to Zionism and a free and liberated Palestine. And we know, as Palestinians here on Turtle Island, that we are on stolen land. We know the history of land theft, of colonization, and of genocide against the indigenous people of this land. In fact, Zionism as a fascist ideology would not have been possible without the experiences of settler colonialism that took place right here in so-called Canada. The Israeli occupation uses the same tactics as the Canadian government to steal Palestinian land, ethnically cleanse its people, and build settlements on top of the ruins that they created. This is what took place in 1948 during the Nakba, and this is what continues to take place today. In occupied Palestine, the Zionist state builds parks on top of ruins of Palestinian villages. They import foreign trees to replant the land and cover their crimes. And here on Turtle Island, the Canadian and Quebec governments choose to build and expand a golf course on land that isn't theirs. And they do this because it is in their very nature to steal, to ethnically cleanse, and to destroy indigenous land. And we know that indigenous people across the world are part of a righteous struggle against imperialism, against settler colonialism, and against fascism. So today, as we commemorate 35 years since the siege on Ganasatake, where government and military forces imposed a siege on the indigenous people and fighters for 77 days, we salute the Mohawk warriors who defended their lands. We salute the indigenous people of Ganasatake and Ganawake for protecting their land and their righteous struggle for sovereignty. And today, as we are witnessing the most horrifying acts of genocide against the people of Gaza, the Palestinian people have endured mass extermination, ethnic cleansing, and forced displacement for the last 100 years. They struggle for a world free of Zionism and US imperialism, a world where justice prevails, a world where justice, dignity, and liberation prevail. And to end this speech, I will end with the words of Ghassan Kanafani, who says that imperialism has laid its body across the world. Wherever you strike it, you damage it, and you serve the world revolution. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Kevin Callahan, who was part of the Irish who came to support us.
I'm speaking first of all in Irish to say I'm really honored and happy to be here. Je suis ravi d'être ici. J'ai parlé en irlandais. The Irish language was a language that the British colonial state tried to eliminate, and they have not succeeded, but they did try, and that's an experience I'm sure all the Indigenous people here can relate to. I'd been a long-time activist in the Irish struggle for self-determination when what they call the Oka crisis erupted. I'd always been sympathetic to the struggles of the Indigenous people, but always from a distance. And I was shocked when I saw government representatives and mainstream media begin to vilify the resistance here in the same language the British state was using against the Irish nationalist community in the north of Ireland. Terrorists, criminals, extremists, crazy people, all the same attacks that are used constantly against people all over the world who start to say, enough, we're standing up for ourselves. Suddenly there were soldiers in public places and military helicopters in the sky. It actually reminded me a bit of Belfast at the time. This torrent of hate coming from some politicians and journalists led to physical attacks by racists against anyone who even looked Indigenous. I decided I could not stand by and began to attend demonstrations and contributed to the support for the resistance. And I have to say, I was just so touched and amazed and overwhelmed by the courage and spirit of the people at Kanasatake and Kanawake. And before I continue, I'd just like everybody to give them a round of applause, those living and those still here. The crisis had a huge effect on me. It really made me reflect. I studied a lot then about colonization. I learned, in fact, the links between the Irish and the indigenous peoples. Some of the very same people in the 16th century from England who colonized Ireland then came to Turtle Island to use the very same techniques of genocide, seizure of land, destruction of culture and language. It's people like Sir Walter Raleigh, the very same people. The crisis at the time may have been over, but the struggle continued. I wanted to build links of solidarity between the Irish and the Mohawk struggles. Every time we brought a representative of the Sinn Féin party in Ireland to Montreal, a visit to Kanasatake and Kanawake was a priority. In 1999, we organized a conference on human rights violations by the British government in Ireland, and one of the main speakers was Ellen Gabriel, and who stressed the importance of solidarity between people struggling for their rights and to further the process of decolonization. And again, I want to say Gura Mahagat, Ellen, because that was really important for us, and people in Ireland still remember you and want you to come visit. Just to say, finally, solidarity is more important than ever. We're faced with rising fascism, rising white nationalism, and the destruction of the environment. So the Kanasatake Kanawake resistance should not be just a memory to us, it should be an inspiration to us all to continue the struggle. We must stand together in the days to come. Karamagat.
Thank you. Our next speaker is a professor, artist, and documentarian, Rehab Nazal. Rehab.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. I am honored to be here with you today in Jahjaje to commemorate 35 years of the uprising of the Kanasatake, the Kanyahaga people of Kanasatake and Kanawake. I bring greetings and solidarity from Palestine, where I have been witnessing the 21st century genocide of the Palestinian people unfold live before the world. From one colonized land to another, I raise the voice of the indigenous Palestinian people in solidarity with the indigenous nations across Turtle Island in their struggle for land back, self-determination, and sovereignty. Today, as we commemorate the 78-day siege imposed on the people of Kanasatake by the Canadian State Army and Quebec Police, we remember the resistance and resilience of the Mohawk warriors, women, elders, youth, who stood united, armed with courage, determination in the face of militarized settler violence to protect sacred burial grounds, ancient pine trees, their history, their ancestors, and their sovereignty. Their stand continues to inspire all indigenous people, all the struggle of indigenous people across the globe. As Sister Ellen Gabriel puts it, the siege of Kanasatake and Kanawake was not a one-time atrocity that ended, but a chapter that opened a new era in the struggle against colonization, land theft, and genocide. Yet 35 years later, settler colonial covert and overt violence continues across Turtle Island, from Kanasake, Wet'suwet'en, Atikask, Etikasa coup to Palestine. Land theft and exploitation, the destruction of indigenous life, targeting children and women, and inflicting environmental destruction. This anniversary of the 1990 uprising of the Kanyahaga people comes at a dark time in which the indigenous Palestinian people have been enduring 21 months of live stream genocide, 78 years of ongoing Nakba, and over a century of Western colonialism. The ongoing genocide is carried out by the settler state of Israel with complicity of Western states, including Canada, who have been funding, arming, protecting, and participating in the daily bombing, displacement, starvation, and erasure of our people in Gaza, the West Bank, and across all Palestine. I have just arrived from Palestine, or the Palestinian West Bank, last week, where the horrors are less visible than in Gaza. For example, in the past 2 years, the Israeli settler state has seized land equal in size to Gaza, silently. Displaced over 22 communities and forced more than 60,000 Palestinians from Jenin, Tulkarem, and other areas. Armed settler gangs and occupation forces carry out home demolitions, night raids, mass arrests, assassinations, and confinement with metal gates of all the communities, and control of movement by nearly 900 checkpoints just in the West Bank. We are witnessing unprecedented brutality and atrocities where drones, artificial intelligence are used in the murder of Palestinians. Today is a day to affirm our struggles as indigenous peoples. Each one, whether in Turtle Island or in Palestine. Our struggle rooted in the same settler colonial logic. And the source is one, Western colonialism. Let us today renew our commitment to continue our struggle for land back, sovereignty, self-determination, and justice and accountability. Let us remember that resistance is existence. Long live the solidarity of indigenous people from Turtle Island to Palestine. And thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker is known for Idle No More and is also a CBC podcaster, the lovely Melissa Mullen Dupree.